For Moncrieff.
My question is to the Treasurer. Will the Treasurer update the House on how the Morrison government's commitment to budget surpluses and paying down debt is providing stability and certainty for all Australians?
The Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for Moncrieff for her question and acknowledge her deep background in small business, and with more than 30,000 small businesses in her electorate, more than 3 million through the country, she knows how important small business is to growing jobs and as the backbone of the Australian economy, Mr Speaker. Now, in last week's national accounts, we saw the Australian economy complete 28 consecutive years of economic growth, a record that is unmatched by any other country. And in the June quarter, the economy grew by 0.5% and on year average terms by 1.9%. This is in the face of significant headwinds, in particular the devastating impacts of flood and drought domestically and the global trade tensions between China and the United States. And so what these numbers showed was the remarkable resilience of the Australian economy, and they were a repudiation of all those who sought to talk down the Australian economy, Mr Speaker. Now, as other economies have gone backwards, Germany, Sweden, the United Kingdom, Singapore and others, the Australian economy went forwards, Mr Speaker, growing again, Mr Speaker. Now, our plan is very clear. A 10-year pipeline of $100 billion on infrastructure spending, a record pipeline, 80,000 new apprenticeships, lowering taxes in the most significant way in more than 2 decades, bringing the budget back into surplus for the first time in more than a decade, and creating more than 1 million new jobs, Mr Speaker. Now, those opposite have a very different approach, Mr Speaker, because if you needed any reminder of the Labor Party's tendency to put higher taxes on the Australian people and higher spending, you only need to see who came out of the shadows, Mr Speaker. Who came out of the shadows to have a comment last week, Mr Speaker? None other than Wayne Swan, Mr Speaker. None other than Wayne Swan, to remind the Labor Party that not only should they keep their higher taxes, Mr Speaker, but they should be proud of their higher taxes.
Treasurer resume his seat. The Leader of the Opposition on a point of order.
Relevance.
If fine. Leader of the Opposition can resume his seat. The Treasurer can continue.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, they don't like what they heard from Chairman Swanee, Mr Speaker, because the Labor Party are addicted to higher spending, addicted to higher taxes, and could you imagine if they put $387 billion on the Australian economy at a time it was weathering these challenges, both domestic and internationally, Mr Speaker? Only the coalition could be trusted to reduce people's taxes and to put more money in their pockets. Well done.